The principal refused to listen to the black mother at the parent meeting until her son's video shocked the entire school. They didn't expect her to speak up. They sure as hell didn't expect her to bring receipts. Monday evenings at Eastwood High were usually dull, but not that night. The auditorium smelled like tired sweat, disinfectant, and false promises. PTA meetings were meant to build bridges. But tonight, it felt more like a trial and not the kind with a jury that listened. Denise Taylor sat at the back, clutching her handbag like a shield. Her son, Malik, leaned forward beside her, hoodie half-zipped, his thumbs nervous against the screen of his phone. His leg bounced, almost in rhythm with the ticking clock overhead. "Don't," she whispered to him. "Just wait." He gave a slight nod. Principal Raymond Givens stood at the podium, pristine in his slate-gray suit, holding a stack of carefully curated talking points. His smile was polished, practiced. It hadn't once cracked all night, not even when Ms. Whitmore asked about the sudden drop in black student enrollment from the honors program. "I assure you," Givens said, gesturing with faux warmth, "every student here is given an equal opportunity to thrive." Denise nearly scoffed. "Equal? Tell that to Malik's science project being lost. Or the time his essay on Malcolm X was flagged for aggressive language. Or when he was suspended for defiance after simply asking, 'Why only black kids get stopped for uniform checks?' She didn't want to be here. She didn't want to be that parent. But her son was drowning in a system that didn't even see the water. And when someone's child can't breathe, you scream damn the consequences." A white mother stood up and complained about the vending machines being out of granola bars. The room laughed. Denise stood. The laughter stopped. Principal Givens blinked. "Yes, ma'am? You had a question." Her voice didn't tremble. "I have a statement." "Oh," he chuckled lightly. "Well, we're trying to keep it to questions tonight, too." "I said what I said," she cut in. Gasps fluttered around the room like startled birds. Givens' jaw tightened. "My name is Denise Taylor. My son is Malik Taylor, 10th grade, honors student, artist, athlete. He used to love coming here." Givens shifted behind the podium. "I'm not sure what this is about, but perhaps he doesn't anymore," she continued louder now. "And I want to talk about why." The silence that followed was absolute. "You say every student gets a fair shot here," she said, turning slowly to address the room. "But I'm looking at the advanced placement wall in the hallway, and I see one black face out of 57. I'm hearing stories from other parents, black parents, about their kids being pulled aside, written up, pushed out. This isn't the forum." Givens tried. "Isn't it?" she snapped. "Because when I emailed you, you didn't reply. When I called, your assistant said you were busy. When I asked to meet, you sent me to the vice principal, who said Malik was hard to engage. But none of you ever asked Malik a damn thing." Whispers now. Not hostile. Curious. Uneasy. Malik looked down, his hands clenched into fists. His phone was trembling. Givens cleared his throat. "Mrs. Taylor, I understand you're upset. But—" "No, you don't," she said. "But maybe you will." She turned to Malik. He stood, slid his phone into the projector dock, and pressed play. The screen behind Principal Givens came to life-shaky phone footage at first. Then audio kicked in. A teacher's voice. "So that's why we read To Kill a Mockingbird. Because it teaches kids like you how to behave." A pause. Malik's voice. "Kids like me. Don't act coy, Malik. You know exactly what I mean." A gasp. Then another clip, this time in the hallway. A security guard blocking Malik's path. "ID." Malik held it up. "Where are you going?" "Art room. I have a pass." "You sure about that?" Clip after clip. Malik's life caught in fragments. Dismissive teachers. Passive-aggressive comments. Humiliating discipline. All quietly recorded. When the final clip faded to black, the room was dead silent. Principal Givens didn't move. Denise folded her arms. "Now tell me again how every student here has an equal opportunity." It was a dagger made of facts, aimed at a man who had built his entire image on illusion. A white father near the front cleared his throat. "Is that real?" Malik looked up. Every second of it. And suddenly the room cracked. One by one, hands went up. Other parents. Stories poured out. Quiet ones at first, then louder. Latino parents. Asian parents. A white mom who said her daughter tried to report a teacher's slur and was told to let it go. By the end of the meeting, Givens wasn't smiling. Denise didn't gloat. She didn't need to. She only turned to her son, placed a hand on his shoulder, and whispered, "You did good." And he nodded, quietly. But it wasn't over, because the video didn't stay in the room. Someone had recorded it again, and that night it went online. By morning, it had 800,000 views, and Eastwood High would never be the same. The district called it unfortunate. The board called it concerning. But students, they called it what it was, the truth. By Tuesday morning, Malik's name was echoing through the hallways, not in mockery this time, but with something he hadn't felt in months. Respect. Not everyone was supportive, of course. A few teachers gave him colder stares. One whispered troublemaker when he passed. But for every sneer, there was a nod, a look, a quiet, "Hey man, I saw the video." Denise hadn't slept much. Her phone was still buzzing with texts from other parents, some praising her bravery, others sharing their own pain. Some were angry, others just tired. She didn't know what came next. She didn't plan this. She'd only wanted them to hear her. Now the whole damn city had. That morning, an email from Principal Givens hit every inbox. "We are investigating the content of the video shared during last night's PTA meeting. Eastwood High is committed to inclusivity and equity. In the meantime, we urge our students and families to direct concerns through proper channels." Proper channels. That was rich. At lunch, Malik sat outside, away from the cafeteria noise. He wasn't eating. He scrolled through messages, some hateful, most not. His fingers hovered over a DM from a senior named Brielle. She was one of the few black girls in the honors program. They'd barely spoken before. Her message was simple. "Thank you for being brave. You're not alone." He didn't reply, but he smiled. Back in the main office, Principal Givens wasn't smiling. He stared at the laptop screen, eyes twitching as he read headlines. Local student exposes racial disparities at Eastwood High. School board silent after viral PTA video. Black mother challenges system. Ignites community response. He leaned back and exhaled slowly. The superintendent had already called twice. The second time, she didn't ask how he was holding up. She asked for a formal report, a statement, and a list of teachers in the videos. He knew what that meant. Scapegoats were coming. He picked up his phone and dialed. "Gwen, can you bring me Malik Taylor's file?" There was a pause. "Sir, are you sure? With everything going on, maybe we should." "I said bring it," he snapped. Moments later, he was flipping through the thick folder. Absences. Incident reports. A few glowing teacher comments, but buried beneath disciplinary notes and concerns. He frowned. Some of these were clearly overreactions. Petty. Inconsistent. Some he didn't even remember signing. He set the folder down. And for the first time in a long while, Principal Givens wondered if he had missed something. Something big. Wednesday brought news vans. They parked just beyond the front gates, swarming students with microphones. Teachers were told to say nothing. Givens tried to tighten control, but the school was cracking. Students began organizing. They printed quotes from Malik's video and taped them on lockers. "Kids like you. Equal opportunity? Then prove it." He used to love coming here. A teacher tried ripping one down and was met with boos from her entire first period class. By Thursday, the board had scheduled an emergency meeting. Closed door. No press. Denise was not invited, but she went anyway. She sat just outside, in the hallway, with her arms crossed and a folder in her lap. Inside were testimonies from other black parents, screenshots of ignored emails, names of students who had stories just like Malik's. Some of them were there with her mothers, fathers, grandparents. They sat in silence. Quiet, powerful protest. A reporter snapped a photo. It made the morning paper. Inside the boardroom, Givens spoke with less certainty than usual. He presented the school's plan. A task force, sensitivity training, a public statement condemning racism. But he didn't apologize. Not once. The board chair, a woman named Ms. Evans, adjusted her glasses. And what about the students who appear in these recordings? The teachers? Have any steps been taken? We're investigating, he said. She nodded slowly. Were you aware of these patterns before the video surfaced? Not in full context. Another board member cut in. So a mother had to make a public scene for you to see what's been happening under your leadership? He had no answer. The next day, Malik got called to the office. He thought it was another punishment. His stomach twisted. But when he entered, it wasn't a vice principal or security guard waiting. It was Mr. Gardner, the art teacher. "Hey," Gardner said, smiling gently. "Close the door." Malik did. Gardner pulled out a thick canvas from behind his desk. "I found this in the back closet. It's yours, right?" It was. Malik's mid-year art project missing for weeks. He blinked. "Where'd you find it?" "Someone had shoved it behind the stage props," Gardner said. "Didn't look like an accident." Malik stared at it. His painting. A black boy with a cloud over his head. Thunder in his eyes. Roots growing from his feet trying to break through concrete. "I remember this," Gardner said. "You had something to say. You still do." Malik swallowed. "I wasn't sure anyone was listening. They are now." By the end of the week, things changed. Slowly, but visibly. The school held an open forum reel this time. Students spoke freely. A girl cried recounting how she was laughed at for her hair. A boy admitted he'd stayed silent too long. Teachers listened. Some genuinely. Others with arms crossed, defensive. Malik didn't speak that day. He didn't need to. His presence alone said enough. That weekend, Denise got a call. It was from Ms. Evans. "Mrs. Taylor," she began. "We'd like to invite you to join a new advisory panel. Parent-led. Community-focused. You'd have a real voice." Denise was quiet. Then, "Will it change anything?" Evans didn't hesitate. "It already has." On Monday, Principal Givens did something no one expected. He called an assembly. Every student. Every teacher. He walked on stage alone, no clipboard, no prepared notes. He took a long breath. "I owe you an apology," he said. The room stilled. "I have led this school for 6 years, and I've taken pride in our numbers, our programs, our reputation. But pride can blind you, and I realize now, painfully, that I missed what mattered most. Listening." He looked toward Malik, who sat near the back. "I didn't listen to Malik Taylor. I didn't listen to his mother. And in doing so, I failed this community." Some students blinked in disbelief. Others nodded slowly. "I can't undo what's been done, but I can learn. I can grow. And I promise this school will grow too." For the first time, the applause was not obligatory. It was real. Later that day, Malik walked past a group of freshmen huddled around their phones. He paused, leaned in. On the screen, someone had made an edit of his video adding captions, music, context. It was powerful, and it ended with words in white over black. He didn't yell. He didn't fight. He showed them. And now we all see. Malik turned away. Behind him, one of the students whispered, "That's him. That's Malik." He kept walking. For the first time in a long time, his steps felt steady. Change sounds loud when it starts. But real change? It's quiet, messy, uneven. It's not in the headlines. It's in the hallways. 2 weeks after the assembly, the murals in Eastwood's main corridor were painted over. The old one-smiling cartoon mascots and bland inspirational quotes were replaced by a student-designed project called "We Are Here." Malik was one of the lead artists. It was Principal Givens' idea. "They want to hear your voice," he'd said awkwardly, standing outside the art room. "Maybe this is one way to do that." Malik didn't answer at first. Then he nodded once. "But it's gotta be real." Not just pretty. And it was. The mural started with a wide, winding tree, its roots tangled and deep. Along the branches were faces of students from every walk of life. Some were real, some imagined, but all were drawn with intention. Braids, scars, pride, fear, defiance. Malik painted a girl with headphones lost in her own world. Beside her, a boy with a pride flag cape. A student gripping a basketball with bruises on his knees. Another holding a worn-out library card like a sword. And in the center, just above the largest root, was a black boy holding a camera. No labels, no speech bubbles, just watching, documenting, bearing witness. Brielle helped too. She wasn't in art class, but she offered to trace outlines, mix paint, keep people on schedule. Malik had started replying to her DMs, carefully, like stepping on new ground. By the time the mural was halfway done, they were sharing playlists and inside jokes. One afternoon, while cleaning brushes, she asked quietly, "You ever think about what would have happened if you didn't record it?" He didn't answer for a second. Then, "Yeah, all the time." She nodded. "Me too." The school year didn't magically transform. This wasn't a movie. Teachers didn't suddenly become flawless. Students didn't all hold hands and sing. But there were shifts. Ms. Douglas, the strict English teacher who once called Malik combative, now began each lesson with a quote by a writer of color. Coach Freeman stopped calling black players natural athletes and started actually watching their GPA. The security office created a log system for ID checks with signatures and timestamps. Transparency. The board funded a new diversity and equity liaison, a position Denise was offered and accepted after much thought. Some changes were symbolic, others structural. All were overdue, but none of it came without resistance. In March, a group of parents filed a complaint, claiming the school was now too political. They said Malik's mural promoted division. They wanted it removed. They failed. But the message was clear. Not everyone wanted truth on their walls. Malik knew that. Denise did too. And still they kept going. Spring came, and with it, college brochures and test prep and prom flyers. Malik got an offer to present at a citywide youth conference. Voice and Vision. Student Justice in Schools. It wasn't just Eastwood anymore. Other schools were seeing similar videos, similar movements. The clip had sparked something bigger. A network of young voices. He was nervous. Denise offered to coach his speech. "You've already said the hardest thing," she reminded him. "Now you just need to say it louder." At the conference, Malik stood behind a podium not unlike the one Principal Givens had once used. He looked out at rows of students, teachers, organizers, even media. Then he told them everything. Not just what had happened, but what it felt like. To be invisible. To be watched. To be called articulate like it was a surprise. To learn to keep receipts for conversations most kids never had to defend. He ended with a quote from James Baldwin. "Not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced." The room stood. He didn't cry, but later, back at the hotel, he let himself breathe in a way he hadn't since the night of the meeting. Back at Eastwood, graduation approached. Malik stood on stage in his cap and gown, his honor cords swinging lightly in the breeze. Denise watched from the front row, proud in a white dress she hadn't worn in years. Her hands were steady now. She no longer clutched her bag like a shield. Principal Givens called his name with care. Malik Taylor, honors graduate, excellence in visual arts, and recipient of the Civic Courage Award. Cheers. Malik walked tall across the stage, shook Givens' hand firmly. Not out of forgiveness, but because he'd earned his ground. After the ceremony, Givens approached him again. "Your speech," he said, "at the conference. I watched it." Malik nodded. "Did you hear it?" The question hung in the air. Then, "Yeah, I think I finally did." That summer, the mural at Eastwood was featured in a statewide education journal. Other schools asked to replicate it. Malik, now preparing for college, was asked to speak to faculty at a neighboring district about youth-led reform. He took the train in a crisp button-down and the same beat-up sneakers from the night of the PTA meeting. Full circle. On his desk at home sat the phone he used to film it all. Denise wouldn't let him throw it out. "That phone changed lives," she'd said, half-joking. "It stays." Malik had printed one still frame from the video, just a grainy image of himself holding up his ID in the hallway, defiant and scared. He hung it above his desk. Not to relive the pain, but to remember he saw it. He named it, and the world shifted. Meanwhile, Denise was busy in her new role. She held community listening sessions, helped revise disciplinary protocols, mentored other parents who'd felt shut out. She even spoke at a district-wide leadership summit, her voice steady into the mic as she said, "I am not here to make you comfortable. I am here to make sure my child and every child feels safe and seen." Some officials rolled their eyes. Others applauded. A few listened. That was enough to keep going. One day in July, she and Malik sat on their apartment stoop, watching the sun slide down behind the city skyline. He had a scholarship letter in one hand, a sketchbook in the other. She smiled at him, her eyes soft. "You scared?" He nodded. "Yeah." She nudged his shoulder. "Good. Means you're not walking into it blind." A pause. "You think they'll listen?" he asked. "Out there, I mean, college. Or is this just this one moment?" Denise looked ahead, thoughtful. "They might not. Not all of them. But you'll make them." He chuckled. "You make it sound easy." "It's not," she said. "But that's never stopped you before." And in the quiet, with the city murmuring beneath them, they sat mother and son, survivor and witness, builder and breaker of silence. Fall came quickly. The wind carried the scent of new pencils, old books, and fresh starts. Students poured into campuses across the country, all of them trying to figure out who they'd become when no one was watching. Malik arrived at his college dorm with 2 bags and a head full of questions. Would they see him as the video kid? The one who'd stood up to a system? Or just another freshman trying to find the dining hall? His roommate, Aaron, was tall, awkward, and wore a sweatshirt that read, "Question everything." Malik liked him immediately. They talked late into the night about music, about how weird it was being away from home, about how strange it felt to be seen as someone important. "I Googled you, by the way," Aaron confessed on the 3rd day. Malik winced. "Oh, that clip from your high school? Wild, man. You really lit a fire." Malik shrugged. "I just held up a mirror." Aaron grinned. "Well, it was a damn big mirror." Meanwhile, back in the Eastwood School District, things continued to stir. Denise's parent panel launched its first major initiative, a reporting tool for discrimination incidents anonymous, tracked, and mandated to be reviewed. It wasn't perfect, but it worked. Slowly, patterns emerged, trends that no longer lived only in whispered hallways or private inboxes. Some staff were let go. Others were retrained. A few resigned quietly. The most surprising shift? Students began reporting things for each other. One student stood up when a classmate was told her braids were distracting. Another challenged a counselor who said a lating student was better suited for a trade program. It wasn't just Malik anymore. It was ripple after ripple after ripple. Months into college, Malik was invited to a panel discussion titled, "The Student as Witness." He sat beside 3 others, a girl who had organized a walkout at her school after an ICE raid, a boy who'd sued his district for segregated classrooms, and a trans teen who'd fought for restroom access. Each of them had faced pushback, silence, threats, but they'd all spoken anyway. When it was his turn to speak, Malik paused before the mic. "I think people still don't understand," he began. "This wasn't about one hallway or one ID card. It wasn't about making a school look bad. It was about something bigger." He looked out across the audience. "My mom once said the scariest thing wasn't being ignored. It was being told we were wrong for noticing." He smiled softly. "But I noticed, and now you do too." Later that night, Malik got a text from Principal Givens. Just a single photo, the Eastwood mural still standing. now with a new edition, a gold plaque beneath it that read, "Created by students, witnessed by truth, built for those who dared to be seen." Beneath that, in smaller print, "In recognition of Malik Taylor, class of 2025. He stared at the screen for a long time. Then he replied, "Thank you for listening." That winter, Denise visited his campus for a parent weekend. She brought his favorite cornbread, wrapped in foil, and a new journal. They sat in the campus cafe, laughing over stories he'd collected in his first semester: professors who cursed too much, dorm showers that never got hot, the girl in his poetry class who recited Audre Lorde like gospel. Denise looked at him for a long moment. "You know," she said, "I used to worry they'd never really see you." He tilted his head. "Who?" "Anyone. The world. The teachers. People with power. You were always smart, always observant. But too many rooms want you to shrink before you even speak." He was quiet for a second. "Sometimes I still feel like I'm shrinking," he admitted. She reached across the table and squeezed his hand. "But now you know how to push back." Spring returned to Eastwood, and with it new names, new faces, new fights. In Ms. Evans' office, a stack of letters sat on her desk, notes from other schools, asking for help. The district, once stubborn and slow, was becoming a blueprint. Not perfect, never perfect, but better. And in the art hallway, a group of freshmen stood in front of the mural, wide-eyed. One girl pointed to the boy with the camera. "That's him, right? The one from the video." Her friend nodded. "Yeah, Malik something." Another said, "He graduated last year. My cousin knew him. Said he was quiet but deep." They stared a little longer, then walked on. But one stayed behind. She pulled a marker from her pocket and carefully, gently, added a tiny flame beside the camera. A symbol, a reminder. That summer, Malik interned with a nonprofit focused on educational equity. He helped design student feedback tools, sat in on policy meetings, and co-wrote a youth-led research report on racial bias in teacher referrals. He never stopped sketching. He filled pages with faces he met. A teacher who cried after hearing his story, a student who said his video helped her speak up about harassment, a janitor who thanked him for saying the stuff we always saw but couldn't name. At night, he wrote poems in his journal. One, written late one July evening, read, "I filmed it because it hurt. I shared it because it never stopped. I kept going because silence grows teeth. And I speak because someone's always listening now." Years later, when he stood at a podium again, this time, accepting an award for youth leadership, wore a small pin on his lapel, a gold camera, the same kind he'd painted in the mural, the same kind that changed everything. He looked out at a crowd of new faces, parents and students, teachers and allies. Then he told the story again, not because it was easy, but because it was necessary, because someone out there still hadn't been believed, and someone else still needed to feel seen. ND.